I don't think pastors and church leaders understand the difference between church communications and church marketing. And this is evident in the many Facebook groups that we get to be in, both pastors and church communicators and anyone else. There's lots of fantastic Facebook groups out there, but a majority of questions are internally focused. What's the best newsletter format? How do I get rid of our bulletin? Who likes this sermon series design? What should I post on our church's Instagram feed? There are lots of great questions in there, but they are focused on reaching people that are already in the church. And if we are very optimistic, people that are already saved in the kingdom, and we're just looking at how can we equip them better to be better congregants or better members of the body. And fewer questions are asked. How do we get people to know the church? How do we get people to trust the church? How do we bring people into the church using communication, using modern marketing methods? And let me tell you what, that's become a problem in today's church ministry world and outreach world and digital ministry, whatever you want to call it, because we've allowed political correctness in the church to confuse and make more muddy what we're actually talking about. Because back in the 90s, when we used to say promote the church or get people aware of the church, marketing became a little bit more of a normal term. By the mid 2000s, I think we all understood that marketing was important. But we don't like using the word marketing in church. It's businessy, it's deceptive, it's sleazy. We don't like that. So instead, we're going to call it church communications. We're not marketing the church, we're communicating it. And I applaud the sensitivity, I applaud the creativity, but what it's done is it's caused muddiness in the waters. It's muddied the waters, that's what I was trying to say. You don't tune into me for the good words, okay? It's caused the waters to become muddy on what we're supposed to be doing. And it causes people to split their time when it should be in on one thing or another. See, church communications can both mean internal communications, newsletters, bulletins, email, social media posts, flyers, bulletins on the, not flyers, but what do you call them? Posters, bulletin boards in the church, and church outward communications, like your website, your advertising, your branding, your Google presence, whatever that is. Basically stuff that reaches the people that are not already involved in your church. And when we see that one word that actually encompasses two things, this is why so many church communicators, more often than not, are overwhelmed rather than they feel rightfully equipped, because they were technically hired to do the job of two people. We see the same thing in smaller churches, or even I've seen some medium and even a couple large churches that hire a youth pastor. But what they're really hiring, because they say youth is from birth to 18, they're really hiring a children's pastor and a youth pastor, but they just call it a youth pastor, or they just call it a student's pastor. Well, you can be a student in elementary school, and they're hiring that person to actually do two jobs. Now, that's not a problem. It's a problem when you confuse people with it, okay? Now, let's turn it back to church communications. We expect one person to do the job of two people. And this is especially a problem in the church, and it's not so much a problem in business. If you imagine a small $1 million business, okay, I'm talking a contractor that has maybe 3 subcontractors, okay? Internally, when a new job comes in or when they're updating their systems or whatever, he's got to let 3 other people know. That's it. That's his whole internal communication. His outward marketing, his outward communications are going to go out to the 1 million people out in the community. So 1 million external, 3 or 4 internal. Now, if you take a church of, let's say, around 200 to 300 that has that same $1 million annual budget, you've got to now take that communications internally and get 200 to 300 people on the same page, plus the 1 million that are outside the church. So you've got 1 million plus 2 to 300, okay? It's a very difficult job to keep these 2 to 300 people on one page and try to get the 1 million other people onto another page. Basically, they're trying to get those 1 million people to be on the same page as the 200 to 300 people, and the 200 to 300 people to be on the next page of, let's do this one thing, this one event, or whatever it is. Okay? So church communications, if we just muddle the waters with that and include church marketing with church communications, we're going to overwhelm anyone that we bring on to be the church communicator. We need to know that, we need to understand that these are two different positions, okay? These are two different jobs. Not only that, and this is where we're going to be a little bit unreasonable or a lot unreasonable. In fact, let's just go to the extreme. We're going to be very unreasonable. Church communications, internal focused church communications is not missional, okay? If your church is on a mission to make disciples who make disciples, and you spend all your time internally communicating events and updates and upcoming things and whatever else to the internal people, you're putting a lot of your eggs in that basket, and you're putting a lot of time in that basket to, yes, equip them to go out and invite people into relationship with them in the church and all that, but you're not using all the opportunities to make that invite, to make that relationship easier. We do that. We see the evidence of marketing supporting the invite every day, right? You want to go to this new restaurant? Nah, I never heard of it. Versus you want to go to this new restaurant? Oh yeah, I heard great things. I saw a good review. I got a Facebook ad for it. The invite is easier. So if you spend all your time internally focused on internal communications, right? You're letting the bowling pins stay set up instead of knocking down some of them for your people. And if you allow yourself to, and I'm not saying this always happens, but it's very easy to allow yourself. When you think about church communications, you're going to focus on a lot of tactics and a lot of outcomes that are very shallow, in that you're really just focusing, well, we just want to make sure everyone knows the same thing. Versus, how does this help equip our people to make disciples, to change and impact our community? Here's what I want you to do. Number one, I want you to internally, if you're a church communicator or you're a pastor, whoever you are, you have to make a decision right now. Am I going to focus on internal communications? That means, am I going to focus on just communicating to the flock and keeping them on the same page? Or am I going to focus on external marketing, church marketing, and try to get the community on the same page, which really is, this church is here to help you and support you and guide you to Jesus, who will give you a fulfilled life, right? Or whatever your unique message is. But you can't do both. You just cannot split your time when you look at church marketing. You're going to sacrifice external communications to try to get your congregation on the same page, or you're going to sacrifice getting your congregation on the same page and making sure they know everything they need to know to get more people coming in. And if you're in a church, it's a really tough situation, because if you focus on the outside, then the people that are coming in are just coming into chaos, right? Because your people don't know anything either. They come in for the Easter egg hunt, and your people are like, I didn't know it was at this time, or I didn't know I was supposed to bring candy. Or you focus on the internal, and this is what I see often, for example, like an Easter egg hunt, and you didn't do much external. And so your Easter egg hunt is just your kid. And you got 30 kids, but you brought candy for 100. But because you spent so much time and effort and energy getting your church on the same page, you forgot or neglected or didn't do to completeness marketing the event to the city. So you cannot do both. You have to figure out what's important. That's step one. Or what you're gifted for. Because there are some people that are just like, I'm not gifted for internal church communications. I like to say church would be a lot, you get me when I say this, church would be a lot easier if it wasn't for people, right? Church would be a lot easier if it didn't have people in it. But that's what we got to deal with. And I have much more patience with lost people coming against the church than church people coming again. We didn't hear about this. We should have done it this way. You should have done it this way. So I'm more gifted for the external. That's why I founded a church marketing agency, not a church communications agency. And then once you define what you're good at, or what you're called to do, or what you're blessed with, or what's more important to you. And by the way, there is no wrong answer. Okay. There is no wrong answer. Once you figure out what you're gifted and what you want to spend your attention on, you need to find someone to help you fulfill the other. Okay. For most pastors, their focus is internal, meaning they've got to equip the flock. They've got to equip the saints. They got to help the saints work out their faith. That's a full-time job. To add marketing on top of that is not fair. And it's just not possible. We want to be unreasonable. We don't want to be impossible. Okay. And it's also it's also impossible to expect you to sacrifice time with your family or sacrifice time for your own self to try to catch up because you're doing two jobs. Right. So you got to figure out who's going to help you fulfill the other. Okay. When I was focused on external stuff, I had volunteers that could help me do the internal stuff, where instead of writing bulletins and newsletters and social media posts, they did all that. And I just focused on go telling the world about Jesus and the local church. Okay. And by the way, this is why I started the church marketing agency, because a lot of pastors are so inundated with internal communications. They got to try to keep their flock most of our clients don't have a church communicator, an internal communicator. Their secretary does it, they do it, their receptionist does it, the youth pastor does it, whatever. Like I said, there's no wrong answer. So they come to us because they know we can go tell people, they can get the house in order. So when people come, the house is in order. It's the best of both worlds. We're the ones that fill that gap. But if you're the marketer, which I know some great pastors that are great marketers, they need to find someone that can get the church on the same page. It's a 2-person job. This is a non-negotiable. One person cannot focus on getting everything internally ready and keeping everything externally together. So answer the question right now. What are you going to focus on? Internal communications or external communications? And who, not what can you do about the other, who can take over the other with you?